Welcome to another episode of Recommended Daily Dose. I'm your co-host, Dr. Suraj Saggar, joined by my esteemed colleague.
You tell me.
Dr. Clenton Coleman,
Yeah.
MD, nephrology extraordinaire.
You're listening to Recommended Daily Dose with Drs. Clenton Coleman and Suraj Saggar, the not-so-average health show with a unique spin on what's making headlines in healthcare.
I'm really excited today, and I hope you are, to have, actually, believe it or not, my former resident. The first day I showed up to residency, this guy...
Somebody older than you?
Someone older than me as possible, and someone wiser than me, which is hard to
imagine. Obviously.
But we are very pleased to be joined via telephone from beautiful Miami Beach, Florida, with Dr. Jason Shapiro of Tribeca Med Esthetics. He is not only an accomplished physician, but he's also a dear and great old friend and someone who I've known since I started my medical training. So, Jason, welcome to the show today, my man.
Thank you, gentlemen. Greetings from Miami Beach.
I'm imagining it's a little bit nicer weather down there than sunny New Jersey, or Dirty Jersey, as we used to call it back in residency.
For sure, man. The only difference is here you have to wear Speedo at the beach, whereas in Jersey we'd wear board shorts.
Board shorts, that's right.
Now, how'd you make it down to Miami?
Absolutely. No, I hope you guys make it down sometime over the winter. We have 6 months of gorgeous sunshine, no clouds.
But how did you make it down, bro? How did you make it down? Because let's start from the beginning here. You are, and actually, he's had an interesting story. You went to school in Boston, and you went to med school in Israel. Is that right?
Correct. Went to med school in Israel. There's 3 or 4 American programs in Israel. I went to one of them.
Right.
And came back and got into a program in New Jersey at St. Michael's Medical Center, where I had just an incredible 3 years of internal medicine training.
Yeah, Newark is no joke, as we say, in terms of medical training. We saw, because I was there with you, the whole gamut of infectious disease and everything else, right? So we had incredible internal medicine training, but what made you escape dreary New Jersey, so to speak, and make it down to sunny Miami? What is it about medicine? What was going on to have you do what you do now, which is really more in cosmetics and integrative and preventive medicine and even concierge medicine, which is what we want to talk about today?
So, I think the biggest driving factor, because, when we finished our training, we started working locally in New Jersey, both of us, you and I, and, I noticed that, it was tough to, you work so hard,
right?
And just the bottom line was there, the revenue being generated just didn't equal the amount of hours spent taking care of patients. And you're chasing insurance companies for reimbursement. It just didn't make sense to me, and I started learning about different types of very simple, easy to do procedures that were based on a fee-for-service type of business model.
Right.
For example, like injectables like Botox or hyaluronic acid fillers like Juvederm that were very simple to learn and to reproduce great results every time, and patients were very happy. And it really helped to sort of cushion, coming out of training financially. And I did one procedure, perfected, then another one, then another 2, another 4, and then I noticed that, hey, I had a group of different procedures under my belt that
right.
I think I'd be able to market pretty well. And that was sort of, the big sort of impetus to break away from, inpatient internal medicine,
right.
we used to call back then. It was before it was called hospice. It was inpatient.
Sure.
And I'm from South Florida, so, I thought it was a good opportunity for me to come home and, be closer to family down here.
So I guess it was a combination of like lifestyle choices, but also you mentioned the demand, right? So I took a look at your website. I didn't realize there was so much like aesthetic types of procedures that people are really interested in. What kind of things do you do now, like as part of your practice?
So, it started off being strictly aesthetic with very little internal medicine. And then there's been this movement, as you guys well know, into, it's really preventive medicine, something that I know the 3 of us never learned in med school or in training, residency or fellowships for you guys. The concept of preventive medicine doesn't exist. Nutrition didn't exist. And that has sort of become, front and center in terms of taking care of patients. And we found a way to create a fee-for-service model where we take a functional medicine or preventive medicine approach to treating all these metabolic illnesses, issues that deal with inflammation or, metabolic syndrome, hypertension, dyslipidemia, all those things that are sort of in that same, grab bag of, metabolic disorders. And we're able to provide medical care in a way that gives the patients a lot of access to me.
All right. So, and when you say a lot of care, so I'm assuming you have like a comprehensive team. So it's not just a physician. You have nutritionists, you have dietitians, you have, what does your team look like? You have nurse practitioners. What is the whole team there over there in South Beach?
It starts with, front desk, which we spend a lot of time, really educating these girls about medicine for people that are laymen.
Right.
These girls will have this tremendous basic knowledge. It's not just to answer the phone. They have some level of understanding of the nature of the diseases of the patients we take care of. But the real core team, it's a medical assistant. It's a nurse practitioner who's my wife. And
you're recently married, I believe, if I remember correctly. So
yes,
congratulations.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah, better late than never, but it's the second best decision I ever made after med school. So, so it's the two of us, and I work with a couple of other surgeons who use our center. They're plastic surgeons, sort of like a age management, lifestyle medicine approach to taking care of a lot of the illnesses of where patients would go to their primary care doctor, pay a copay, wait hours.
Right.
It's unpleasant. It's stressful. You have 2 minutes of doctor's time, or you're dealing with maybe like a nurse practitioner who may not have the experience of a physician. In this case, there's more of a premium you have to pay. However, when you leave my office, you really understand what's going on. You have access to our office mobile phone, which we take home every night. You have my email, which I explain to the patients the reasons why we're doing the different things and what the blood work means. I really spend a lot of time with the patient. So I find that, it's to them, they see value in it, and
right.
They appreciate it. And it's amazing how much of a transformation these people take. It's a lot of fun, I got to tell you, like taking these people, with BMIs that are like 32, 34, hypertensive, pre-metabolic syndrome, all that stuff. And slowly over the course of 6, 9, 12 months, balancing them, whether it's with like testosterone or even like growth hormone peptides, and
actually Clinton suffers from low T, so maybe we can talk about that. I'm just joking.
Yeah.
But did you find it difficult transitioning from the more of the insurance model to the more fee for service? Because I think medicine is one of the only industries where you have that insurance as a middleman.
As a middleman, right.
And patients don't understand the cost involved, and when if they had the option of actually paying for a service or a concierge service, they probably balk at it.
It's crazy. Yeah, no, it's definitely so agreed. Initially it was, it's one step at a time, really, and it's a slow transition, and it's also, the key to success for growing this type of practice is patient selection. You need to know who you're going after. I happen to live in an area where there are people very health conscious.
Right.
And there's a young energy to Miami Beach. There's this renaissance happening in terms of migration of different communities from South America and even Europe and even Mexico to Miami, downtown Miami, Brickell, Miami Beach,
right.
Niles. And these are people that are young, relatively young, meaning like under 7 years old, vibrant, and they want to, get healthy. And we provide a platform for them to get that done relatively quickly with easy access to the doctor. And pretty much, I'm not saying guaranteeing results, but, we demand results. I don't have patients that, sort of like flounder around. I think the reason is because of my access to them. I'm emailing my patients.
It sounds like they're motivated to get healthy, and they at the same time are demanding more immediate care and more immediate response, which is why
their doctor's motivated too.
Right. So I mean that's a perfect mix, especially in a place like Miami. When you're saying you have health conscious as well, let's be honest, appearance conscious as well. So your practice, I think specifically, which develops, and maybe you can expand upon what is medical aesthetics as well as integrative and functional medicine, is probably a perfect mix down there.
Yeah, and I think the grab bag term that we use here is lifestyle medicine.
Lifestyle medicine, right.
that's pretty much like the way to describe, Miami. And it's not for everyone. And also, it's not for every doctor. I mean, you need to be able to, it's not just enough to have patients swipe a credit card and then you're done. You need to perform. You need to be present. When they reach out, you need to get back to them right away.
Right.
And, and it's how I respond to these patients is a lot different than how I used to respond to patients when I was working, doing traditional internal medicine. So I just didn't have the time. You just didn't have the time back then. You're hurrying to get through everything, making sure that you're billing correctly, and then it's the issue of, chasing insurance companies. It's like you just don't have time. It's crazy.
Yeah, so you're essentially cutting out the middleman. And I mean, this whole idea of direct primary care and concierge medicine is a big one we've touched upon before. But getting to medical aesthetics, tell me a little bit, because, in the past, if I'd asked you, hey, Jason, I got some dark circles on my eyes, you would just tell me put cucumbers and just take a nap.
Done.
But, I mean, done, right? But I'm guessing.
Is that true?
4 hours.
Does that work?
Cucumbers, a mango mud mask, and that's all.
100%, man.
Stay hydrated.
That's
but I'm guessing you learned a thing or two.
Organic. That's how we do it.
Just go to Whole Foods and you're good. No, but I'm guessing since our residency days that you've learned a thing or two. So tell us a little bit about what kind of procedures you have, and more of the medical related procedures, and also what these procedures are that someone who is not a surgeon, right? That's the interesting part, is that you have a surgeons there that come to your med spa and your surgical suite to do procedures, but you're doing this as an internal medicine physician.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and what people don't understand is you don't have to be derm or plastic to do these procedures.
Right.
Plastic surgeon wants to operate. They don't want to sit here and waste their time with injectables.
Right.
They go to school for that. In fact, there's no school for that. It's just after training, courses and seminars. That's pretty much what's available. It's not integrated in part of any type of formal education.
Formal education,
and
right?
Dermatologists. A dermatologist's job is to, diagnose disease of the skin and treat it. We're not talking about that when it comes to aesthetics. Aesthetics is a very interesting field where any physician or, I guess, nurse practitioner or physician assistant, I don't know what the rules are in each state, but any clinician with the right training can create fantastic results for these patients, and it's easy to do. Botox, for example, is the number one most popular procedure done globally.
Is that right? Globally?
Globally, yeah.
And how long does each procedure last? Because, you see some people walking around, I guess probably not in the hands of a gifted practitioner, who perhaps have had a little too much Botox, their eyes are reaching for the skies, so to speak. So
exactly.
It's a bit like
the rest.
Right. But what are the different, I've even heard of Botox, for instance, things like to prevent hyperhidrosis, like people who have excess sweating. So
migraines.
Or migraines, right? So it's actually very fascinating where Botox can be utilized not just for cosmetics, but for other medical ailments.
So, for example, you can't see me, but I'm pretty aesthetically pleasing to the eye.
Your nose. I just want to say your nose is a little.
Wait, we're not gonna nitpick.
Oh,
but,
come on.
I've been referred to as like a god, like Adonis. So So I really don't know what actually is going on with men and aesthetics. What are the men getting nowadays? I'm really fascinated by this.
Besides the cucumbers,
so honestly,
I'm dead serious.
Definitely, Botox is something that's become much more popular, in the male patient.
So it's no longer the stereotypical Botox Tupperware parties. You're saying it's men are getting it for what, though, specifically? For laugh lines? For what?
Well, remember when manscaping used to be like that taboo?
Same concept. So now we have Scrotax, actually.
Scrotax. Oh, I've heard everything now.
So you want the wrinkles out?
Whatever you got to do, man.
Have you done that?
Fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
Have you done that? Seriously?
That's a mantra for today.
No, I mean that it takes some Stugats to do something like that. No pun.
Stugats.
But
I like how you brought the jersey back in with the Stugats. Nice work.
Yeah,
that's also the boat on Sopranos, by the way. Just so you know. Okay.
Absolutely.
But Botox they're getting, are they still getting the implants with the calves? Remember that fad?
Have seen that, but I'd say the most popular for sure, Botox, and we're seeing men starting to get dermal fillers for cheek bone enhancement to make themselves look more youthful. As you get older, we see mid-face volume of fat starting to decrease, and the face tends to drop, creating the jowling.
Oh, the jowling, right? That's the worst.
And there's age-related jowling. There's HIV-associated lipoatrophy. Dr. Saggar.
Yeah, that was actually a big one back in our training days when we used some of the older meds, the protease inhibitors. Thankfully, that lipodystrophy, right, where they had like the buffalo hump and central obesity and peripheral wasting. So maybe basically you would kind of be fat in the middle and then skin in the outside. And Jason and I, Dr. Shapiro and I saw plenty of HIV in our training, which, by the way, was the old days. So Coleman's a few years younger than us. So he had the privilege of training with the 80-hour work weeks, and I'll tell the med students today that
I don't know why he's in a
exactly right.
I did the 80-hour work.
No, you graduated before 2005. No. Because I'll have students today telling me, what is your cap on the amount of consults or admissions you do a day?
We had no cap.
And that's what I tell them. I mean, this is the old days. We trained in the days of giants.
Our call was 24 hours. You round.
24, you're lucky. We would have
and then
30
you
plus.
leave after that.
30 plus. You know what? I even had a resident once, I forget his name, that one time he was at the beach in the Hamptons and rounded via telephone while I was, we would used to run the, I can't remember the name. I think
he said resident.
I think he's in Miami Beach these days. But,
we can't mention his name.
But he gave me the greatest gift I ever had, which is the gift of independence, Right. And that's what the man that I am today is related to this kind of thing.
The gift of self-reliance.
Self-reliance, that's right.
And I still appreciate, I totally have that golden tan thanks to you, Serge. So,
you lucked out when you got me as an intern. Come on, second year you could relax. I did all the work.
Oh, it was great, man, and we've been buddies ever since. I'm telling you, like residency was just a wonderful, awesome experience. Like just for some reason, our group, those 2-3 years, like just some fantastic guys.
Yeah, I always tell people it's the best time you never necessarily want to ever do again. But the amount of medicine that you learn, the amount of training, the amount of personal growth. Is incredible. But
yeah, it was wonderful.
We've both gone different career paths, but I mean, there's a lot of overlap and there's a lot of things that are complementary to each other. So I think it's so great that you're here today, man. I have to say it's really exciting for me personally, and then us, professionally to have you on. But I still want to hear more. If we're not going to talk about the procedure downtown, like what about this CoolSculpting? Tell me a little bit about that. That sounds. I've had multiple people tell me, "Gee, I got stubborn belly fat. I work out. I don't want to have invasive." Like surgical procedure to remove the fat. What is CoolSculpting?
So, CoolSculpting is a non-invasive way to reduce the amount of fat just below the skin, but it's not a very aggressive approach to sculpting your body. I mean, there's no other way to sculpt aside from just actual liposuction. I can't stress that enough.
But I think the average person's probably not really looking to sculpt themselves from stone, right? They just say, hey, I want to remove some of this stubborn.
But the problem is it's marketed as like sculpt. The name implies that it actually can sculpt you.
You are actually heating up fat cells, right? Is that what it is actually? And then killing them or melting them away? Or what is it? What is the physiology? What is the medical way of that, the way it works?
You know what? For us, we had someone who was interested in bringing in CoolSculpting into our practice, but I just felt that it was, so expensive.
Oh, okay, is that right?
So amount of improvement that I decided not to actually.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Come into our office, just because we have physicians or surgeons here that do such a great job with
traditional liposuction. Oh, that's interesting. So actually, it's not something you offer now or necessarily are behind.
Correct.
So that how do you get?
No, but I'll tell you what we do offer, which is incredible. There's a product called Kybella, which is a new FDA-approved fat reduction product. It's basically deoxycholic acid, and it is designed to permanently remove fat through lipolysis.
So explain that for the general public there, what lipolysis means, or even me for that matter.
This is a procedure where you're injecting this medication that disrupts the cell membrane of the fat cells, causing the fat cells to die. And as you guys know, fat doesn't regenerate. And this is actually bought by Allergan, the maker of Botox, for God knows how much money.
Right.
Because they feel that this may be the big game changer for body sculpting. Like Botox was a big game changer for facial rejuvenation.
Right.
So the idea is you take Kybella, and it's a injectable medication, and you inject it directly into the hypodermis or the fat just under the skin. It causes an immediate inflammatory response, and over the course of like weeks, those fat cells start to lyse and break apart and die, and that causes the fat to be, just washed away in the lymphatic system, and then we start to notice a decrease in the volume behind the skin. And it's amazing, actually. It was initially intended to be used just underneath the chin, the double chin, or, the fancy word is the submentum. And it's incredible. I mean, I actually didn't believe it till I was the first patient. And
this is done by you, or this is done by a surgeon? Who was the?
No, it's done by anybody, actually. A surgeon, non-surgeon. It's very safe.
So the recovery time is quick then, I'm assuming.
Super quick. The procedure takes 8 to 10 minutes to do. It's like doing Botox.
And is it a one-time procedure, or multiple sessions?
So it depends on how much fat you need to have reduced and what's your goal. But typically 2 to 3 treatments is what we're seeing, spaced like 6 to 8 weeks apart. That's we're noticing the best results. And it's an interesting procedure because it's very easy to do. There is zero downtime. You could be in and out of the office in 30 minutes with some swelling. You don't need to wear any type of garment. There's no risk of infection or minimal risk of bruising. And obviously all the dangers that come with liposuction if not done correctly. I mean, people die with that procedure. The difference between liposuction and Kybella, which is like injecting this product into fat.
Right.
So liposuction, it's an immediate dramatic change right away, right? Whereas
so basically, Coleman can go from looking like himself to me like over lunch. You're saying?
No, we're not talking about fat transfer. We're not injecting fat. We're talking about losing weight.
Exactly.
Listen. During residency, both Jason and I, to cope with the stress, had for about 2-3 months this issue we're eating Butterfingers. And then we both gained some weight. That usually you say freshman 15 in college. We had the internship 20, internship 40.
We had the freshman 40.
We had the internship 40, residency 40.
If I even knew about phentermine back then, I think we wouldn't have had a problem. But that wasn't even available to us.
But thank God since we've given up the Butterfingers at least 2 decades ago, and doing our best to stay in shape. But
for Kale and you for sure, man. I'm watching you with the triathlons, and it's unbelievable. What's that? Sorry?
Have though, you can check out our previous episode where we had a trainer. We both worked out with this high intense trainer. We took a survey.
Yeah.
You want to know what the numbers are? So 82% of the listeners believe that actually performed better, which is not true, actually. We both did well, but it was just the aesthetics.
The issue was Coleman showed up in Lululemon wear for men.
I had tights on.
And that was, falsely misleading in terms of how athletic you might look.
But like I said before,
I just showed up with an old shirt.
I look athletic.
Yeah, maybe. Well,
these young doctors, man, it's like a different look. Like we're old school, me and Suraj.
That's right.
Sports shorts, there's no manscaping, nothing. Strip gorilla.
That's right. Maybe some nair for men. That's it. On the back. That's what it.
Exactly.
What are the procedures that the guys are weird procedures that guys are getting? Are they doing the butt lifts and?
Great question. So we see a lot of very interesting consultations in our office.
I think we'd like to hear about some of those, specifically. Exactly.
I want to do the butt lift. I want to have the Kim Kardashian. Can you do that for me? I want to be the first one walking around with that.
But there's 2 guys I work with that do. But I have to tell you, that procedure is very dangerous. There's been a spike in deaths related to fat embolus.
Oh, fat embolus. So just so the listeners out there, emboli is where you actually get fat getting into the blood vasculature and then causing problems in your heart and your lungs. So there is a risk of that. I think I remember a couple of high-profile cases of maybe some non-licensed practitioners doing this and having very bad and even fatal results.
It's scary, man. It happens. One just happened 2.5 months ago. The surgeon who has one of these chop shop centers where it's 4 or 5 operating rooms.
Right.
Very low-cost plastic surgery where the surgical techs are from South America. Maybe they're doctors there, and they're helping with the procedure. And it's for these guys, it's a volume kind of situation where maybe the price point should be $8,000-9,000. They're probably charging $3,000.
This is actually interesting because we see as an ID doctor, right? We live obviously in the tri-state area, and we have a lot of international airports. We see a fair amount of people going down to South and Central America for medical tourism.
Wow.
And for people who don't know, that means it means they might say, well, I can go to the United States and get a procedure for X amount, I can go somewhere else and for half the price, right? But inadvertently, I see at least 1 or 2 per month of complications where people come back, not even with infectious complications, but very what we call multi-drug resistance, so things like organisms, so things like ESBL, MRSA, and people who are otherwise healthy. And in fact, so much now that when some people come from certain countries, and actually they're correlated with the countries that overuse antibiotics, I automatically put them on very aggressive antibiotics because I've been burned before. For these patients, you think they have a simple staph and strep, it ends up being like an ESBL, which is a very resistant, as you know, bacteria, MRSA, a VRE. So my question to you is that, one, do you have people doing medical tourism? Because Miami, obviously, this location coming from Central and South America. And then what are your thoughts about people who may be contemplating, for whatever reason, a cosmetic procedure, but say, you know what, I can go to Colombia, I can go to Brazil, I can go to DR, even India, and pay half the price and, maybe have the same results? I mean, do you have people that maybe are asking those questions?
So great question. We see a lot of those patients who've gone there and they've had bad results, and they're coming to our office for revisions to fix the issues that were done.
Right.
We see a lot of that. It's crazy. So my advice to people interested in any type of cosmetic surgical procedure, number one, do your research. Research the physician. You can also look up to see if the physician has a history of malpractice lawsuits, problems with patients that had bad results.
Right.
Not hard to do. You can contact the state medical board.
Right.
And this is information that is available to patients. I always encourage patients.
This is free, public available information, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to, inquire, and the state will provide that within a very short period of time. So, number one, research your patient, your doctor. Number two, see the before and afters. Okay, understand, and ask him how many of these cases he's done,
right.
and make sure you're doing that in the consultation. And if he's sort of, or if he or she, the physician, is sort of, avoiding the question, that should be a red flag to you that, hey, maybe this may not be the right surgeon for you. And also ask to speak to other patients who've had this procedure done with the doctor. Well, this is what we offer all our patients. Look us up.
Right.
Look at our reviews. Call the state medical board. Our center is quad ASF certified. That makes that implies we have the highest safety protocol for an operating room.
Right.
In a private center not associated with a hospital. It's expensive for us, but it sets us apart from the masses. And at the end of the day, it's you're taking care of patients. So, patients really need to understand, the limitations of the procedure and the limitations of the physician, their experience, and don't make decisions based on the price of the procedure.
Price. I mean, obviously, whether you're doing cosmetic medicine, elective procedures, whatever, everyone, we understand cost is a consideration. But if you're doing something electively, you're saying it may not be worth it. Because what I find is that some of these patients, they come back and they have no follow-up with the surgeon. There was a surgeon in another country who did a procedure and they said, see you later, right? And I've had patients come back with a pickle on their arm and said, well, he just told me to take some antibiotics, or told me...
Well, their first interaction might have been the procedure. They probably didn't have any...
Well, sometimes it's the first and last, which is, I think, is why it's important to have a comprehensive team approach, is what you have. You mentioned calling your office. Like, what's your information? Like, where can people find you in terms of your web address, your social media, things like that?
So, in terms of very easy, superficial search, we tell our patients to Google us,
right.
Google, read the reviews, the good and the bad ones. Go to Yelp. Yelp is huge in South Florida.
Right.
In consumer culture in South Florida, Yelp is massive, and that should give you a good idea of, from like a drive-by estimate perspective of, how the practice is running, if there are issues, a lot of drama. If the most reviews are, normal and well written and thought, like a couple paragraphs, you can see that these are from real patients, not just, hey, doctor's great, go see him, times 30 reviews like that.
Right.
So, you can get a good sense of, how well the practice is doing in terms of the relationship with the patients. That's the easiest thing to do. But I encourage patients to actually contact the medical board, the state medical board, and to really dig deeper a little bit and understand, hey, this doctor actually has no issues whatsoever.
Right.
In good standing. That's something that you need to do these days, which is, I think, good because, if you're doing the right thing, you have nothing to hide. because there's so many other physicians that are cutting corners. And you know what? I get it. The reimbursement is not like it used to be. So I understand the incentive for doctors to try and cut corners, to try and make ends meet better than they did years ago, because it was very easy as a physician to come out of school, come out of residency, start working,
right,
off your loans, and you're off the races. It's not like that these days.
Right.
It's unfortunately. So that's sort of the deal.
I think the trend is patients are getting more, cognizant of who they're seeing.
They're informed, right?
And informed too, right?
Yeah.
So,
Sure.
we do it in every other aspect of our lives. So when it takes me like a week to buy some electronics as I'm reviewing it, I'm testing it out. I'm not sure that patient and surveys and reviews are the answer.
Well, a lot of people
or helpful
rely
for-
on them. I mean, even
right.
up here,
for physicians,
Doc
but
and
I
other
think
things.
just being informed
Sure.
is actually important. So,
Yep.
so what's
no,
the future of your
internet,
practice?
No. Sorry.
What's the future look like for your practice? Where do you see
future,
like this aesthetics and medicine going?
So, I'm really excited to see functional medicine starting to become the biggest growing part of our practice, which brings me back to my
Right.
training in internal medicine and taking more of a preventive medicine approach, which is essentially functional medicine. It's fun, man. It's fun to do something that you're trained in where patients appreciate you and you're able to actually show results, and I'm able to have that doctor-patient relationship that I never really thought would be possible when I came out of training, because, it didn't exist, because you have to see so many patients.
Yeah, it's literally like 14 minutes or 10, let's say 12 to 14 minutes per patient if you're lucky. And even now I saw a stat for every 1 minute, and believe me, patients should understand this. No doctor they want to spend time with you. But the reality is, for every 1 minute you're spending with a patient, you're spending maybe double, so 2 to 3 minutes even, documenting, or doing prior authorization. So whether it's paperwork, and I've had some patients say, "Gee, doc, why is your back towards me?" Because I'm busy typing into a computer. I oftentimes think back to even with my father, more traditional internal medicine, outpatient, inpatient. You would spend an hour with a patient, and you would see way less patients, but you wouldn't, you would be reimbursed adequately, and you could really just focus on the doctor-patient relationship, which is, I think I'll still tell you, is why almost every physician gets into this game, into this,
Of course.
not just line of work, but really, calling, profession, whatever you want to call it. It's really all about the patient-doctor relationship, and no matter what type of medicine you practice. That's what the privilege is of being a physician.
I think I might move down to Miami.
Well, that's a separate note. That's right.
Love it.
It's terrible up here. But we can talk to you forever. It's been great. Yeah. So
thank you guys. Thank you for the opportunity. And like I said to Suraj, when I decide to make it up there when I get a chance, I'm looking forward to meeting you guys in person.
Just bring some Botox for me and Coleman. That would be helpful.
You got it. And Scrotax. You got it.
Scrotax. You have to trademark that now.
Yeah, and then 30 trademark. I looked.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this
was. We're happy to have Dr. Jason Shapiro.
Imagine if our podcast had that as a sponsor. That would be something.
What? Scrotax?
Scrotax.
Sponsored by Scrotax.
That we could discuss that all day, I think.
We're edit points, right?
That's right.
So thanks for listening. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure.
If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe and rate us at holyname.org/recommended daily dose. We will see you soon.
Find us on iTunes and Spotify. Thanks again to Dr. Jason Shapiro. Until next time,
you,
from
guys.
Teaneck, New Jersey, be well.
Check out recent episodes and learn more about these two modern medicine men and their podcast at holyname.org/recommended daily dose.